species, leading scientists have demoted neo-Darwinian evolution from the rank of fact to the level of unrealistic speculation. Again, I'm stopping in the middle just to explain it, but the idea is that Darwinian idea, God did not make anything and everything was an amoeba and a one atom, a one cell structure, and then it evolved until here we are today, millions and billions of years ago, whatever. So, but that's not, science is saying, well, that wouldn't be according to science, Torah, because Torah says we are human beings. We're very special. We're not just sophisticated apes. Again, people say, well, that's a contradiction with the Darwinian theory. But now the news is the leading scientist said, no, Darwinian theory is not correct. Based on methodological, mathematical, genetic, statistical, system theoretic, paleontological, and experimental concern in both field and laboratory studies. They just say it just can't happen, bottom line, even though these are all essays and books on all this. In any case, that bottom line that, a man cannot evolve from, number one, an ape or even a plant. Say, well, billion years ago we were just plants and now we're human beings. It's just scientifically proven incorrect. It just can't happen. So therefore, we thought there was a contradiction. In the end, that there's no contradiction at all. This leaves individual creation of species a more viable alternative. I mean, I guess it doesn't prove he's saying that God made the human being, but at least he's saying that we didn't automatically come from a plant, billions of years ago. Human beings, before they were animals, they were plants, and it's just not scientific that could happen. Ecology and environmental activism are based on the conviction that one small deed or even a thought can make a disproportionately huge impact in the world, like the Torah notion of personal repentance catalyzing global redemption. Again, it's interesting that can one small person do something that affects the entire world? And Torah, of course, says yes, but then say, well, how much can one little human being do in the world? And now they're saying, yes, it can have, that you can make a major impact on the world also. And this, I think, as a side note, I think is very important, because now that people say that statistics are that there's 7 billion people on the planet, so who are you? You're 1 out of 7 billionth? What kind of fraction, what kind of decimal number that is? I'm just a low person and it can't make a difference. I mean, automatically you kind of think that, who am I, what am I? I think people think that they can't help the world, so they'll just tune into themselves and being very self-centered. But again, Torah surely doesn't say that. Torah says every human being is very important. And number two, science is coming to that idea also, that even though, don't look at the math of it, the fraction, 1 out of 7 billionth, but on the other hand, that you could actually affect the world even more than you realize. So again, go hand in hand with Torah and science. Chaos theory shows that a few simple rules generate a hidden order that unifies apparently random events in a wide variety of contexts. I mean, the world looks like it's chaotic. I mean, things are just going the way they are. Who knows, for example, with the stock market, people don't even know what the weather is going to be. Like, there's a weatherman and he doesn't know half the time, exactly what's going to be. It's just, things are just rolling along. And look at that, again, the chaos theory. But then there's certain things, if you look beyond it, that there are rules behind the chaos. And therefore, it makes sense. I mean, at one level, it looks like, well, I don't understand what's happening over here. But if you look at a few rules, it all puts this together. This is like random natural events being guided by particular divine providence according to Torah principles. Again, Torah surely says, even though the world, who knows what's going to happen tomorrow, and therefore it's just like throwing dice, and who knows what the headlines will be tomorrow. No one knows. Something crazy could happen, some good could happen, no one really knows. But if you look at a higher level, it all makes sense. So therefore, like in anything in the world, sometimes you don't understand it, but someone who's smarter, more intelligent, knows the situation does make sense. So again, this is what we're saying also, that even though I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow also, but on a divine providence, it all fits together and everything is good, and science is getting to that point also. The implications of a megapoint theory developed by renowned physicist Frank Tipler are summed up in the title of his 1994 book published by Doubleday, The Physics of Immortality. Modern Cosmology, God and the Resurrection of the Dead. Now this is incredible, and this is a totally scientific book, which is, it doesn't say God anywhere in it. I mean, it does say in the title, but he understands that there has to be, scientifically, there has to be a resurrection of the dead, which is a major and outstanding idea in Judaism. When the Messiah comes, and you can say, well, that's a little bit weird and strange, but now a scientist comes up with the idea, because nothing could ever be lost. That's really the point of it. Obviously, it's a whole book and a whole thesis. But on the other hand, I'm just summarizing the idea, bringing it down to a point. Nothing gets ever lost. That obviously a body decomposes. It does maybe say get a little bit lost. Obviously, it decomposes, like I just said. But on the other hand, the chromosomes, the DNA, something always remains. There's still a little point that of the human being that is still there, and therefore can be recreated. So that's an incredible idea, because here's one of the more spiritual ideas, wilder ideas in Judaism, the resurrection of the dead, and a scientist says, yeah, it makes sense. The discovery of radio waves, the harnessing of electric energy, electronic media, and the internet have brought us to the era of all knowledge being everywhere at all time. A tangible analog of omniscience and omnipresence, meaning that, can you see radio waves? No, but are they here in this room? Yes, they are. So therefore, the idea, if I don't see it, it doesn't exist, which again, maybe people have this idea, if I don't see God, he doesn't exist. So what are you going to say? I don't see radio waves. You know that they're here also, and you know they're everywhere. They just don't stop at your front door. And electric energy, the whole idea of the electricity or knowledge is everywhere. Say, well, you can pick up the internet wherever you are. So therefore, that this gives an idea that things are happening all around us, whether we realize them many times now with science, we do realize that. We can understand that there are certain things we don't see or we don't hear, but they are here. So therefore, that you can say that about spiritual ideas also. Judaism says that constantly. Things are here, even though we may not realize it. Since 1992, there has been a sustained 1,000% leap, followed by a steady increase in the number of science articles dealing with God and transcendence. This is concurrent with the Rebbe's proclamation that Mashiach, the Messiah, has been revealed, that global redemption has begun. So more and more people are trying to understand, and in science, that there is something, that there's godliness in the world, or something you don't understand, we can't understand, but there's something sustaining the world. So again, that's a very major idea, that science and Torah and Judaism come together. A few more points. Over the past 15 years, there has been a radical and favorable shift in the attitude of science journals towards the transcendence, as evidenced by the topics of spiritually indexed articles surveyed from the standard database Science Citation Abstracts. This is in harmony with biblical and Talmudic prophecies that mankind will finally achieve consensus regarding the presence of the Creator both within and beyond nature. So therefore, it says science progresses, kind of what I started to show in the last few minutes. We'll talk about this also. As science proceeds and obviously is growing, and new ideas are coming out every day. We see that with the machines, the different computers, but in going to Mars, different probes, so we can witness it ourselves. But obviously people aren't just saying, okay, we have a nice scientific community, we'll go to sleep and close down the science shops in the university. So obviously they're making new trends, and the new trends are constantly towards this more spiritual idea, that there's a spiritual idea factor beyond our physical existence. So more and more they're coming to this idea where Judaism, which says that also, obviously there's a physical world, no one can contradict that, but it has a spiritual element also. Popular media attention is even more intensely focused on the new integration of religion and science. This is in line with the prophetic assurance regarding the Messianic era that the world will be filled with the knowledge of God as the waters cover the sea. So more and more things are getting, people are understanding and coming to the realization that there must be a God in this world. The synchronized and integrated blossoming of divine and secular wisdom has been anticipated for thousands of years in the mystical tradition of authentic Judaism. Thus the Zohar states, Zohar is the basic work of Jewish mysticism, states that the century from 5500 to 5600 using the Jewish years, but it corresponds to 1740 to 1840. The gates of wisdom on high and the fountains of wisdom below will be opened, and the world will be brought to a tikkun, a state of restoration, to be ushered into the seventh millennium, that is the coming of the Messiah, in a world of good. So a few thousand years ago, they already prophesied on this idea that it is a boon in science, to say the least, to say the very, very least. Incredible advances in science, but there's also that there's very much more spiritual, high-level ideas, the Hasidic philosophy. There's so many more things that are being understood more and more as in the last few hundred years, as we just said, but even as time's going on in our 21st century, things are growing, scientists is growing, but not just to make a better computer, but we're just saying even theoretical, that what is the world around us on a higher spiritual plane, that they're coming to this idea that they never had before in the world. So therefore, the Rebbe always is, like I say, a Rebbe is a rabbi, a high-level rabbi, but number two, he is also a scientist, and that was one of his missions, to show that you just don't have to be spiritual and say, okay, I have a job and I do my regular job in the world, but I also can coordinate and be a full person, a full Jewish person, bringing science and Judaism together. So hope that was enlightening to you, and I wish you have a good day.